Hi, and welcome to ECCB Connects. It's Financial Information Month across the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. On this program, we bring you highlights from the regional media launch for FIM 2019. We'll also share with you information about some of the activities planned for FIM 2019 across the region. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's Financial Information Month in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Financial empowerment through education. If you don't know what that is, let me tell you all about it. Learn to spend wisely. FIM. Invest to grow your money. FIM. Business stability. FIM. Step up financially. FIM. Financial Information Month. Financial empowerment through education.
Welcome back. Since 2002, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank has been collaborating with financial and academic institutions, government agencies, community-based groups, and the media to host Financial Information Month in its 8 member countries every October. This month-long public education campaign is designed to provide the people of the ECCU with information that will help them manage their finances, improve their living conditions, and grow and protect their wealth and assets. The overarching theme for FIM is financial empowerment through education. The focus for FIM 2019 is Plan for Uncertainty, Make Insurance Your Priority. FIM partners across the ECCU came together via video conference on 30th September to kick off FIM 2019 with a regional media launch. In his opening remarks, Governor of the ECCB, Timothy N.J. Antwine, called on the FIM partners to work towards developing financial literacy in the ECCU as a veritable grassroots movement.
I wish to challenge our FIM partners, listen to me very carefully, to identify key metrics by which we can assess the development impact of this annual financial festival. And yes, that is what it is, a festival, a financial festival. How are we doing? Who are we impacting? How are we changing the game, the conversation, and the game in our region about financial literacy and empowerment? I know we're going to do good work, but we have to be able to measure our impact. These key metrics, combined with a refined feedback loop, ought to be employed to help us determine how we make financial literacy in the ECCU a veritable grassroots movement, so that by the time we celebrate our 20th anniversary in 2 years' time, this should be completely grassroots. Driven not from the top, but from the bottom up, with some support from the middle and the top. Such a grassroots movement requires a further broadening of our partners and stakeholders to include our children, students, community, and citizen-based groups. Furthermore, it must harness technology such as apps and the power of social media. To that end, I believe, for example, we truly hear from CCCU, that our friends in the credit union movement are well placed to utilize your local infrastructure as well as your international partners to play a key role in this campaign for a grassroots movement. And I want to assure you that the ECCB stands firmly with you in this endeavor.
The activities for FIM 2019 will zoom in on 4 sub-themes. 1. Insurance as a vehicle for investment, asset management, planning for retirement, and transfer of wealth. 2. Financial knowledge, your tool for helping to protect everyone and everything you care about. 3. Insurance facts versus myths, the nuts and bolts of financial protection. And 4. The role of financial institutions in promoting and sustaining economic growth in an environment vulnerable to external shocks. During the launch, FIM partners shared brief perspectives on the overall focus and each of the sub-themes.
when we think about uncertainty, life on its own is full of uncertain experiences, events, and outcomes. This is what makes life interesting, fulfilling, and fun at the same time. However, these uncertainties can also make life difficult and sometimes unbearable. None of us can predict what the future holds for us. Regardless of what we do, there will always be a degree of uncertainty in our lives. This certainty of uncertainty is what should make insurance a priority to help us plan for the risk that we all face in life. At the end of the day, it is about protecting what we value the most to the best of our ability. Uncertainty brings about several risks to life, and risk management principles gives us 4 methods for dealing with risk on a whole. You can choose to avoid the risk completely. You can try to control the risk. You can choose to accept the risk and deal with the consequences if the time comes, or you can choose to transfer the risk. With either of these options, it is really up to us. And I always tell my fellow colleagues, my friends, my clients, insurance is really a matter of transferring a risk from yourself to the financial institution. The question is, in making a decision as to whether we accept the risk or we transfer the risk, we need to ask ourselves a question. Where does the greater risk lie? Is it riskier to have insurance and not ever need it? Or is it riskier to need insurance and not have it when it's needed? I leave that answer up to you.
As I grew older, got married, started a family, and began a business, I realized that life insurance was indispensable and fundamental to a sound financial plan. Over the years, life insurance has given me peace of mind, knowing that money would be available to protect my family and estate in a number of ways, including to pay for financial expenses. The cost of a funeral and burial can easily run into the tens of thousands of dollars. And I don't want my wife, parents, or children to suffer financially, in addition to emotionally, at my death. It also gives us a scope to cover for children's expenses. Like most fathers, I want to be sure my kids are well taken care of and can afford a quality college of education. For this reason, additional coverage is absolutely essential while my kids are still at home. Do you agree? It also takes into consideration replacements of a spouse's income. If I pass away, my wife has to carry all the expenses, still pay all the bills. If my wife passes away while the kids are young, I too will have to continue to do that. What if there is a vital insurance plan? What if there is adequate insurance, life insurance? I would need to replace income. She would need to replace income, which is essential and was essential to our lifestyle. I also would need to hire help for domestic tasks, the tasks that we once shared, like dealing with the house, laundry, cooking, which I am not fond of. Thank God for her. Helping with schoolwork and catering to kids and doctor visits. It also takes into consideration to pay off debts. Most of us have, don't we? In addition to providing income to cover everyday living expenses, my family and your family and our family would need insurance to cover debts like the mortgage that is still unpaid, as our brother just explained, so they wouldn't have to sell the house to stay solvent. That's kudos, isn't it? It takes into consideration also to buy out a business partner's shares. Since I'm involved in a partnership, or you may be involved in a partnership, I need insurance on my partner's life. The reason is so if he dies or she dies, I will have enough cash to buy his or her investment or his or her shares to pay for the company's obligations. Without that, I will still be at a loss, or I will be struggling to find the needed and necessary financial resources to keep the business floating. Do you agree? The same is for all of us. We need to have that financial backing. We need to have that financial stability. We need to make sure that we have that asset management under control.
We call in on everyone to protect their well-being financially by joining the social security system. It's one of the most critical vehicles in what one can safeguard themselves, their dependents, and everything they have. We also need to be mindful that for retirement, we usually define it as a three-legged stool, where one is what your employer provides for you. Unfortunately, in most of the countries, provision of employers' pension plan is not mandatory, so a lot of persons are left uncovered. Then you have a responsibility to provide for yourself, right? And we know in terms of the whole issue of financial literacy and the low level cause inadequate savings on the personal side of things. So it means only one leg remains, which is Social Security. And the Social Security is designed to cover the basic needs. And with this Social Security system, it's in most cases one of the strongest legs on retirement. And we provide that protection not only at an individual level, but also on a macro level. For instance, in St. Vincent, 85% of the elderly population, their only source of income in retirement is Social Security. So to conclude, to protect yourself, to protect your family, to protect your neighbors, to protect your community, to protect your society, join Social Security.
We know about woodlands, we know about termites, they're very prevalent in the Caribbean. And most homeowners who have insurance, when their kitchen begins to fall in, they think, oh my gosh, I am covered, and they run to the insurer for coverage. It isn't. In most cases, it is not. Your best bet is to maintain a proper inspection and maintenance vigil, and be your own watchdog. Because in most cases, insurance companies really do not cover termites, mold, mildew, and that type of peril. Another myth is that a tenant thinks if their property, the one that they're renting, is covered by the owner, that their things are covered too. This isn't so. You have to be responsible for taking insurance for your own personal belongings and your contents. They would not be covered under the homeowner's insurance for their property. So you're on your own with that one. Another myth is every homeowner has to have insurance. Every homeowner really needs to have insurance. They don't have to have it. In some instances, though, you do. If I'm a lender, if I'm a bank, and I lend you money to build your home or to buy a home, I am going to insist that you have to have insurance to protect my liability. If you don't, the bank or the lender can purchase insurance for your property and charge it to your monthly payments that you pay every month on your mortgage.
In pursuit of its financial stability mandate, the ECCB regulates banking business on behalf of its member governments, and the Banking Act is the legislative instrument through which it carries out this regulatory responsibility. The ultimate objective of supervision and regulation is to ensure the safety and soundness of the financial institution and the stability of the banking system, which ultimately results in the preservation of deposits. So let's look at how the ECCB carries out this responsibility. Firstly, the licensing requirement. A license is required to carry on banking business in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. The Act sets out the criteria that an applicant must meet before a license can be issued. Sound corporate governance underpins effective risk management and public confidence in individual banks and the banking system. Given the fundamental deficiencies in banks' corporate governance that were exposed during the global financial crisis of 2007-2008, and I'm certain that we all remember that, it was external to us, but we certainly felt the effects here. And the lessons learned therefrom, the Act emphasizes the importance of good corporate governance, risk management, and recovery and resolution measures, as well as compliance with supervisory standards in reducing both the probability and impact of a bank failure which results in a threat to depositors' funds. You may ask, well, how does the bank actually ensure that financial institutions are complying with the regulatory standards? Well, in carrying out its functions under the Act, the ECCB uses a combination of on-site and off-site surveillance to determine whether the financial institution is in a sound financial condition and that the provisions of the Act are being complied with. From its review of the information, any deficiencies identified by the ECCB are addressed by deployment of the corrective action tools appropriate to the circumstances and scale of the problem. Deposits, particularly savings deposits, are of critical importance in our financial system. They are the main financial instruments available to the population for saving and provide the major funding source used by banks for lending to the private sector that may then generate economic activity and spur growth in our economies. A robust framework that secures the supervisory objectives of financial stability and depositor protection is therefore an imperative, and the Banking Act we would wish to posit provides such a framework.
Let's now take a look at what's happening for FIM across the region for the upcoming week.
To view any episode of ECCB Connects anytime, any place at your convenience, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn at ECCB Connects.
That's it for this week's episode of ECCB Connects. Be sure to check out the Financial Information Month Facebook page, Financial Information Month ECCU, for all things FIM across the region. Thanks for watching and see you next week.